Welcome to part three of a three-part series where we took a look at the Ravens 2021 schedule in part one. We took a look at their draft selections during the 2021 draft in part two. And here in part three, we're going to take a look at the undrafted free agent class. We appreciate you riding with us, rocking with us. As always, remember to subscribe and like, and hope you enjoy the video.
But let me throw up screen share here. We'll close out the show by going through these UDF things because we're already at almost an hour and 30. So we'll go through these guys pretty quickly. But let's start with Arderius Washington. He's right at the top. A guy who I think a lot of the guys who analyzed and studied the draft had him projected being drafted, right? Maybe fourth, sixth round, somewhere in there. But they had him projected being drafted, certainly not as an undrafted guy. And maybe it's his size. Obviously, people probably heard by now he's listed at 5'8". Seems like 176 pounds at his pro day. So maybe it was the size that caused that to happen. But very productive guy. Had 5 interceptions in 2019. TCU played in that secondary tandem with Trayvon Moorrig. And ironically, when you watch the tape, he was the guy that played more like the true safety in that defense. Moorrig was almost like a slot corner. He almost matched up, with guys man to man because he had those cover skills. Whereas, Washington, he kind of played more of that true safety in 2020. And in 2019, he was playing outside. He was playing outside like an outside corner and ball making plays. I think I tweeted the clip of an interception he had playing out there. So another versatile guy. But I'll go to you, Chris, first. What do you think about Arderius Washington and sort of his chances to make the roster?
Yeah, someone who grew up loving Bob Sanders. I always have a special place in my heart for those little guys who can, pack a punch when it comes to laying a tackle down. And Arderius Washington, he is not shy when it comes to getting up there and putting his face into somebody's chest and laying them out. Like you said before, there are some concerns about his height, and that's probably the main reason why he went undrafted is because of his height. I don't think it has to do with his football skills because when you just look at his skills on the field, he's a player that should have been drafted. Maybe 4th, 5th round, like you said, Mike, but he's clearly a talented player. He's a smart guy. You have to be a smart defender in that TCU defense in order to play safety for them. So he's a guy that I think, for good reason, fans are very, very excited about, like we were with Geno Stone last year and Nigel Warrior too. So they have some interesting young guys at that safety position who it's going to be an interesting battle in camp to see who they keep and who they bring along because, like I said, there's no lack of talent there. They might have not been the highest drafted guys, but they're smart, dependable, talented safeties that they have on this roster.
Totally agree. Kara, your thoughts on Arderius Washington? Look at that.
Yeah, I don't know how everything is going to shake out when all is said and done with this roster. But for me, he's going to be on somebody's roster, and he's going to make his way on the field in sub package in some form or fashion. The guy's just too productive, too physical, plays too fast, has the ability to make plays on the ball, and he's just short. I mean, if this guy was 3 inches taller, we'd be having a whole different conversation. But I think there's a role for him in the NFL for sure. He's a versatile guy. I think there's somebody that's creative will figure out a way to get the best out of him. So I think he has a good shot of sticking with this team. But like I said, if it's not with this team, he's the type of guy that I feel like is going to make his way somewhere.
Yeah, they've got a crowd there, kind of in that. I just call it, DB spot. I mean, it could be corner, could be safety, but when you look at when they go into their sub packages, whether that's nickel, 5 DBs, dime, 6 DBs, or even quarter, they play a few snaps a quarter with 7 DBs. That's where it gets interesting, right? because in base and even a little bit in nickel, if you assume Tavon is healthy and he's going to be at least the leader in the clubhouse to get those early nickel snaps, then that's kind of all known, right? But then when you get into dime and quarter, that's where it potentially gets interesting. Who's going to be that next DB that comes in, right? That fifth, that sixth or seventh DB. Is it Anthony Averett? Is it Sean Wade? Is it Khalil Dorsey? Is it Geno Stone? Is it Von Biggie Marshall? I mean, you got all of these guys. I don't know Terrell Bonds, if they brought him back, if he's still around, but he could be in the mix. So you've got all of these guys, right? The thing that I like about Washington, I know the hype is going to be something that people say he has to overcome. I was like, look, he's playing football. It's hard. He's been overcoming his whole life. This is the NFL. It's not Big 12. I understand that. So that is a difference for sure. But he's got that versatility. So when you think about those packages and you say, okay, well, I just need to bring in another DB. And he's going to have to play multiple roles in this defense. So who's a guy who has corner skills? Who's a guy that has safety skills, has experience playing both of those roles, and has the skills to do those different things, match up man-to-man and cover receivers, drop the zones, right, areas of the field, and read the quarterback and read route combinations and read plays. He's somebody that's done all of that, and that's not something that some of those other guys can say. So, it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. But we know up until last year, I think, they had like a 16-year streak of signing an undrafted free agent, an undrafted free agent making the roster. And I think last year that streak was broken, probably, by and large to COVID. So maybe it starts again this year. Maybe he's the guy that does it. But, there are other guys in this class. So scroll down a little bit here, right? So we talked about tackles earlier. Adrian Elam, Oklahoma, offensive tackle. Big dude, 6'6", 321 pounds. We know that Eric Costa likes to shop at that Oklahoma store, right? Been very, very good to him in a lot of ways. And we know that Oklahoma offensive linemen are very well coached. I have a real hard time pronouncing their offensive line coach's last name. It's like Bedenball. Bill Bedenball is his name, but those guys are very well coached. And you see that with Elam. I mean, when you watch him, there definitely is some mobility issues in terms of movement and some limitations there, but you can see that he's well coached in how he processes things and recognizes things. So, he's obviously got some things to work on in terms of technique and mobility, but can't teach size, right? We know that. And he's definitely got that. So, Kerry, let me get your thoughts on Adrian Elam.
Yeah, like you said, DaCosta likes to shop at that Oklahoma store. And, this was interesting because it kind of further illuminates how they felt about their tackles and the tackle class. They went through all these rounds and they didn't take a tackle. And I'm sure they felt like this is a guy that they were going to target, maybe it'd be late or, maybe it'd be, like they got him now, undrafted free agent. But the Oklahoma running game is going to be very similar to some of the stuff that you see the Ravens run. So he's a fit there. Like you say, from a fundamental standpoint, he's a fit there. And then obviously, being a bit physical guy, he's a fit for what they want to do. So I'm sure that went into their line of thinking when they got into the 5th round, 6th round. They're like, well, no, we can do some other things with these picks because we got a guy like this that we can target in the undrafted free agent game, and he fits what we do. And I think he's a guy that has a shot. Maybe not on the active roster, but maybe he's a guy that they can get on the practice squad and kind of get a further look at and groom, and then maybe he's so a depth piece down the line.
Did it again. I agree with you. Obviously, there's some opportunity there at tackle, just like we talked about earlier. that reserve tackle role, there's going to be some opportunity. You know, Tyree Phillips is in the mix at that spot, but now you bring in Ely, and there's going to be another tackle in this class that we talk about a little bit later on, Foster Serrell. So that's one of those spots, and it seems like there's a spot every year that's like that. There's a spot every year where there's probably a little bit more opportunity for somebody to earn a spot than maybe some of the other places that have established players, and it's a little bit more crowded. But tackle, there's a chance for somebody to come in and play really well and earn a spot on this roster. So, Ely definitely is in that mix. Chris sent me a message. He's on daddy duty right now, so you and I are going to carry on and get through the rest of these UDFAs. Hopefully he'll jump back in when he can. This next one should be quick, at least for me, because I'm not even going to pretend like I know who Tony I'm not even sure I know how to pronounce his last name correctly. Is it Pogen? Polgan? Jan? Tight end Tony Pogen from Virginia. So, you can see it right there on the screen. Like I said, I'm not even going to pretend. What they put up there is basically all that I know about him, is that he actually started college as quarterback, a dual threat quarterback at that. So, he must have had some wheels. And then he transferred to Virginia and became a tight end. So I think I'll start with you, Kerry, and let Chris transition back in, but I'll start with you, Kerry. Any thoughts on Tony Bulgin? Maybe it's not specifically about the player, but again, another tight end to join that competition in that crowd.
Yeah,
You're gonna get.
I don't know a lot about him, but I think from an athletic standpoint, you look at the tight ends they have in the room. They have some athletic guys, some guys that can get, down the seam and, do some things, as far as, maybe breaking tackles or getting loose. But he's a guy that could potentially be a guy that can, being able to make some guys miss at times, doing a little bit more. When you have a run game like the Ravens run game, and, maybe break a tackle, get 6-7 yards. But they don't really have a lot of guys at that tight end position that can maybe turn one of those into a 20-yard game, maybe a 30-yard game. So, he brings, an added layer of athleticism to maybe turn some of those quick. Well, we see it right there on the screen. One of those quick passes to the flat and turn that into a 20, 30-yard play. So, just something to keep an eye on. There's a lot of guys in this tight end room, so it's going to be tough sledding for him. But if he can show enough, maybe he's a guy that can stick around on the practice.
Yeah, you can see the athleticism there in these clips that we're looking at now. If he gets some space, you can see a little bit of that athleticism. He's not necessarily making anybody miss or running through a bunch of tackles, but give him some space, and he's able to kind of get upfield and making some nice contested catches too, especially that one earlier in the back of the end zone where he got that 1 foot down. Real nice. But Chris,
baby Gronk. Just look at him. No, that's the go-to thing when a white wide receiver who has some athleticism wears number 87. They just call him Baby Gronk. But no, this guy, like you guys have been saying, he obviously has some athleticism to him, and you can see it in these clips. And boom, he fits right into the Ravens tight end room when you see that hurdle, because that's what they love to do. But yeah, like Kerry said, it's going to be tough sledding, but it would be interesting to see if they keep him around on the practice squad, because you can see there are physical tools there where he brings something to the table that they don't really have outside of Mark Andrews, a guy who can win above the rim and also create some yak yards after the catch. So he definitely has an interesting skill set that they don't currently have on the roster right now outside of Mark Andrews.
Now, and this is an extended. Okay, here we go. I was going to say this is an extended highlight package. There's a lot of clips of that guy, but they just continue to collect these tight ends, and I like their approach. They understand that the tight end has multiple roles in their offense. Like we said, kind of that standard inline guy, go out, catch passes, sort of block from the backfield, catch passes from the backfield. So they just bring in like as many of these guys as they think can do these different things, and then just let them compete it out. And whoever outside of the guys who kind of the established starters, whoever can carve out a role carves out a role. And like Kerry said, and you said too, Chris, maybe they earn a spot on the practice squad, and you never know, right? How things are going to go. Look at how it played out last year, right? Where Eric Tomlinson actually ends up seeing a whole lot of action. They have to go out and sign him after Nick Will is injured, and then he ends up seeing actually a lot of time. So you just never know. So it's easy to maybe dismiss some of these guys and say, well, come on, they already got all these guys on the roster. What is this guy's chances? I don't know what his chances are, but if he can somehow find a way to get on the practice squad, anything can go from there. We saw that last year. I mean, hopefully we don't see nearly as much of the COVID impact going in 2021 that we saw in 2020, but it could be injured, in any play. You can basically become a starter depending on the situation. So we'll see. All right, quarterback, Kenji Bahar, Monmouth University. Again, another guy I don't know much about. I'm going to let the clips play. This is one where, we've probably tried to be optimistic about guys' chances at these other spots. Going to be tough to make the roster as a quarterback for the Ravens. Obviously, we all know who the starter is. And then the backups, it looks like it's going to be Tyler Huntley and Trace McSorley battling it out for that number 2 role. So, good thing for Kenji. I think that's great that he gets an opportunity to come in and try out and play and sort of get in front of, the Ravens and put that tape out there, and other people around the league also can see, what he can do. Apparently, he put up some really good numbers his last year, which I think was 2019 at Monmouth. I don't think he played in 2020. So, good for him. But Chris, I'll turn it over to you. Any thoughts about Kenji Bahar?
So when it comes to these smaller school guys, I lean on guys like Emory Hunt, who is, that's what he's known for. He's known for keeping a close eye on these small school guys, and he has some good things to say about Kenji. And he said that he progressed every year at Monmouth, and he was a guy to look out for as far as if he would have been able to play this last season. So maybe he's a guy who could stick around on the practice squad, maybe. We saw it with Tyler Huntley last year, where he didn't initially make the team, but he was able to stick around and, show the team some things. And we see on this rollout play here, that's some serious arm talent to be able to make that throw on the sideline to the wide receiver. So just from that clip right there, you can see that he has some arm talent on him. And we shall see how it goes for him in camp.
We definitely shall. Kerry, any thoughts on Kenji Bahar?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm glad Emory know him because I don't know Kenji to save my life. That's no indictment on him. That's more about me than it is about him. But I'm glad to see anybody get a shot. And obviously, if Emory vouched for him, he's definitely got something there. He seems to have a good amount of mobility too, which in this position is becoming more and more important. You can't be a sitting duck back there in that pocket. So, it's good that he can kind of move around a little bit. And like Chris said, and it illuminated in that throw, the throw that he made on the sideline, that's an NFL throw. You have to have, prerequisite amount of arm talent to make a throw like that. So, I'm interested to see what can happen with that. We're still not out of it as far as everything goes as far as COVID and everything. So he might be one of those Zoom quarterbacks you gotta keep locked away, just in case.
You're on mute, Mike.
Damn it. And they wouldn't have invited him. They would have invited him to camp if they didn't think there was something there they wanted to take a look at. So there's got to be something there. Now, as we've seen before, with other positions, just because it doesn't work out with the Ravens doesn't mean you might not find a home somewhere else in the league. So, I think it's always a good opportunity for these guys when they can get in to a camp anywhere and show what they can do. Let's see. We got a couple more guys left here. We got defensive tackle Xavier Kelly from Arkansas. This is a guy I did get a chance to look at a little bit because I was watching Jonathan Marshall, another defensive tackle there at Arkansas, who did get drafted. I forget where he went. We went round with him. He did get drafted. And so I didn't know at the time when I was watching Marshall who 97 was. I knew the number, but I hadn't looked up his name at that time. But big guy, I'll let these clips play and probably see some of these clips. Big guy, and he actually played a lot of defensive end in the games that I watched. But 6'5", you probably would expect that. But as we talked about earlier, with versatility, a guy who played some defensive end, like I said, lined over a tackle, but also would reduce down inside and play some nose, play some through technique. So again, just another versatile defensive lineman in terms of alignment, and a position that they didn't take in the draft. They didn't draft defensive lineman. So, it's interesting. I mean, they're pretty well set at that position when you look at who they already have on the roster. So probably an uphill climb for Kelly. But again, a guy who gets an opportunity to come in and compete and kind of show what he can do. I'll start with you, Kerry. Any thoughts on Xavier Kelly?
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that you pointed out. I mean, going into this, we had a conversation. You look at the veterans on this defensive line, and a lot of these guys are getting up there in age, and you have the Broderick Washington legal situation. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. So there's an opportunity here, especially for a younger defensive lineman. If he can come out there in training camp and then put something together in preseason, maybe he can break into making his roster, or at the very least making the practice squad and be a guy that 2022 and onward, have a possibility of contributing for this team. And a lot of people I've seen online seem to have good things to say about this guy, and clearly he has the size and the physicality. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do once training camp rolls around.
Chris, your thoughts on Xavier Kelly? Hey, I wasn't on mute.
This is my first time actually watching him. I didn't get to watch any of his tape for last season, but I do see that. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
I think we lost Chris. I think we did.
Yeah, he had to step away for a second.
Okay. Well, we see the clips playing here. You see some of that alignment versatility, and he's able to get some penetration on some plays, kind of hold the point a little bit on some of the run plays. Looks for what I saw, flashed a little bit more as a pass rusher than maybe what I would have expected going into it. I'm just thinking, defensive lineman, defensive tackle type of guy, but showed a little bit more pass rush than what I expected. So that's always a pleasant surprise. You get a defensive lineman, a bigger body guy who shows some of that. So that's going to bode well, if he's able to carry that over into camp and into the preseason, like you said. So let me see. I think I got Chris back now. There he is. Yeah, he's back. We got you back. Well, yeah, go ahead and finish what you were going to say about Kelly.
Oh no, don't worry. You guys got it.
Okay. Let's see. I think we got two more players, Kerry, here. We got running back Nate Mccrary, Saginaw Valley State. Again, I have not seen this guy, so I'm not going to speak about it as if I have. We could probably talk about it just more in terms of the overall position group. And I think we know, again, it's one of those positions where it's pretty well established. I mean, we know about J.K. Dobbins. We know about Gus Edwards. Justice Hill is in the mix. And that fourth running back, Tyson Williams, from last year, who they kept on the practice squad and retained this year is there too. So, Mccrary probably would be looking at competing with Tyson Williams for that final sort of running back spot, probably on the practice squad. But do you have any thoughts on Carey?
Yeah, I watched him a couple days ago. What little bit I could find of him, and he's a super intriguing guy. Big time size. When you watch the offense that he's in, you can see him transitioning very well to a pistol formation kind of run offense like what the Ravens use. Super explosive, strong cutting ability, and the guy can really move. And he's like 6 foot, like 220, and he's just a natural cutter and a natural mover. So a lot to like there. It's again when you're talking about undrafted free agents and you're talking about an established running back core, it's going to be a tough sledding for him to even make the practice squad. But his ability kind of pops, and I could see him as a guy that makes the practice squad just because they see the explosiveness and the raw natural ability he has, and they want to keep it around. So a guy that I'm pretty interested in.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not saying it's necessarily going to play out this way, but it takes you back a little bit to 2018. And when they brought in kind of a group of UDFA running backs, Gus Edwards was in that group. Who was the other guy? Mark, I can't remember his name, but I think he had played in Miami.
Didn't they have Delance Turner?
Delance Turner was in that group. So they had like 3 guys in that preseason, and they kind of all were battling it out to see who was going to have that next running back spot. And Gus, ended up, kind of winning the job. But it just shows you that you can say, okay, when you already have sort of an established running back group, you bring in this undrafted guy, what real opportunity does he have to earn a roster spot? Well, Gus Edwards is living proof of how you can come in and you can do that. And I'm not saying this guy is going to be the next Gus Edwards. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that at all. I have no idea. I'm just saying that it would not be unprecedented. We've seen it happen on this team, and in an offense that runs the ball as much as they do, you're going to have opportunities as a running back. So, I mean, if you're a running back coming into the league, you got to be pretty excited if you get an opportunity to be a part of the Ravens, because Seahawks, maybe the only other team that runs it as much as they do. Any thoughts on him, Chris?
No thoughts on him at all. Like you guys said, as far as
we lost him again. All right,
we lost him.
But we're gonna move on. I'm gonna pause these clips. He's got some good stuff there. But just so we can get through this last guy. I think that's our last. Oh no, we got 2 more guys. Okay, we'll go quick. Offensive tackle Foster Serrell out of Stanford. You see the size there, 6'7", 315 pounds. I actually did watch him play a little bit. One of the games that really stands out in my mind, this was a good test for him, was last year against Oregon, against Caleb Von Thibodeau. And that is tall order right there going against that guy. He is probably the premier pass rusher in college football. I think he was a sophomore. I don't remember which year actually that I watched that game. I don't know if I saw his freshman season or sophomore season, but Thibodeau's a handful no matter what the case. And he gave Serrell, he put some work on Serrell at time. But Serrell, also, battled. He hung in there and he battled. And I think that's something that's encouraging. And the other thing about him, before I get your thoughts, Carey, is I did a little bit of background on him. He was an extremely highly rated player coming out of high school. Not just like in terms of offensive line, in terms of that position. I think he was the number 1 offensive lineman in that class, which might have been 2016 class maybe. But he was like a top 15 recruit in the nation across all positions. He was an extremely highly rated guy coming out of high school. But the article that I read talked about some of the injuries that he had at Stanford that maybe kind of derailed him a little bit. And then the guy who recruited him to Stanford, who was Stanford's offensive line coach, his freshman year, ended up leaving and taking a head coaching position at another school. And he just talked about, how strong of a relationship that they had. I mean, this guy had been recruiting him since, I don't know, his sophomore, junior year in high school. They had a really, really strong relationship. And so maybe him leaving and then, a new offensive line coach coming in, kind of a different way of doing things, a different message, might have kind of had an impact there as well. So not making any excuses for him, but everybody has a journey and a path, and there are different things that happen along that journey. So if you tell me you get a guy who was that highly rated, that highly thought of, has that kind of size, hey, as an undrafted free agent, I'll take that, right? It's at least worth giving him that opportunity to see what he can do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm big on that, big on pedigree. Sometimes it just right situation at the right time. If there's injuries involved, you got to give guys, enough time to kind of work through those things. I think back to with him, like you said, he's has the pedigree. I think back to Sean Wade, and like I said, I see some people say that Sean Wade can't play, like ruling him out as an outside corner, and I'm thinking, well, this is a guy that was All-American in high school twice, won 4 state championships, and like Chris said, if Sean Wade had set out this year, he would have been a first-round pick or a second-round pick at worst. And I'm not a guy that's gonna ignore that pedigree just because a guy had an injury or had a few bad games or whatever the case may be. So the same thing with this guy here. He's got good size. We know what kind of program Stanford has been, especially as far as in the running game. So we know he's going to be technically sound. We know he's going to run block. We know those things coming in. So you take that all day. And like you said, with that kind of pedigree, with where he was rated, you take your chances on that as an undrafted free agent every day of the week.
Absolutely, right? I mean, that pedigree, I don't think it goes away. I mean, there are times where maybe it doesn't always pan out, and it doesn't, guys don't necessarily live up to that potential, but they were rated that highly for a reason. So there's something there. And, then it becomes a matter of, can the coaches get it out of him on a more consistent basis and help him develop it? Can the player, tap into it and, sort of get himself back on that track where, he's competing to earn a roster spot and carve out a role on the team. So again, they have that need at tackle in terms of that position group. So why not? Not give an opportunity to a guy like this. And then we are at the last player right now. And again, this is going to be another one that I'm going to apologize right up front if I mispronounce your name. It's all on me. Dante, I'm going to go with Silencio. That's what I'm going to go with. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you pronounce it. Dante Silencio out of Graceland, wide receiver. I don't know where Graceland is. You see right there in that first line, this is the only thing that I know. I knew that even before we brought this up on the screen, because I've read a couple things about him when I saw that he was reportedly signed. That's the first line in everything that you read about him, that he played in high school with Lamar at Boynton Beach. So that comes out in everything that you read. You look at his numbers there, pretty decent numbers at Graceland. And let's see, we actually got some clips, so we probably all will be seeing this for the first time. Maybe Carrie, you and Chris have seen it, but all right, what's going on here? With that, we got the small screen going. Let me see something. Oh yeah, no, that's just that's just the small screen. Oh, look, you got the baby mouse.
It looks like it was shot with a beeper.
All right. Well, hey, Carrie, any thoughts that you have, you can share it. I'm gonna. This is the best that I can do, folks. Sorry, I don't know how this was shot, but that's kind of what you get right there.
Baby moss.
Yeah. Hey, open floor. Either one of you guys have anything on Silencio?
Now, as you can see by these glasses, my vision ain't good enough to go all the way in on that. I got nothing for you.
Yeah, this looks like a classic Lamar going to the front office for a favor kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, giving his boy a shot in camp, similar to the way they did with Jalen Smith.
Yeah, and why not? Look, when you got a guy who's been the unanimous MVP in his second year, first year as a full-time starter, and is taking you to the playoffs 3 years in a row. Hey man, you want us to bring one of your boys as a free agent and give an opportunity? Why not? Why not?
And what's interesting is on that Ravens Lounge podcast, DaCosta brought it up how last year in the draft, towards the end, Lamar was kind of lobbying for somebody for him to sign, and DaCosta didn't do it, and the guy ended up making the team on another NFL roster, and DaCosta was kind of like, damn, I should have listened to Lamar because this dude made it on a team. So we see from what DaCosta said, he's willing to listen to Lamar when it comes to signing these guys. Now, I'm not saying this guy's going to make the team, but the fact that DaCosta would put that out there, that Lamar was in his ear, like, hey, sign this guy. He's a baller. And the guy ended up making it another NFL team. There's some trust there, and you don't really see that enough with some other squads, kind of like Green Bay per se.
That's exactly where I was going, Chris. I was going to say, take notes, Green Bay. Listen to your franchise quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, because you know what? You just said it, Chris. You never know how that's going to work out. I mean, Lamar, kind of put it out there about that player, and that guy ended up making somebody else's squad. And then we probably all remember the story about Joe Flacco lobbying for Tandon Dawes. So, it can go in a variety of different ways. Tandon did his thing a little bit, for the time that he was here. So it can go in a variety of different ways. But like I said, when you're at this position, when you're talking about undrafted free agents and giving opportunities to guys to maybe try out or come to a rookie mini camp. If that is coming from your franchise quarterback, I mean, look, is that gonna hurt to give this guy an opportunity if it keeps a good relationship with your franchise quarterback? It's a small thing to ask, right? It's a small thing to ask, I think. So it'd be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and him, will he get any opportunities to actually catch passes from Lamar like a preseason game? Like obviously it's going to happen in practice and whatever. Will he actually get chances to catch passes from Lamar in a preseason game? I think that would be pretty cool. So I think that's our last guy. We're going to go ahead and pause this because we can't see it. None of us can see it. No, it's not our last guy. Barrington Wade, outside linebacker from Iowa. He is the last guy. Okay, we did the 2 hour. We've crossed the 2 hour mark. But I told you this was going to be a meaty episode. We're going through an entire draft class here. So, outside linebacker, I don't know much about him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watched Iowa, because I watched Chauncey Gardner and I watched Davion Nixon and my corner out there, Matt Hankins, who went back to school this year. So he's going to play there in 2021. But I probably did see Barrington Wade, but I wasn't looking for him in particular. But they got a couple of Iowa cats on the roster. Geno Stone is there. Kristen Welch is there. Now they bring in Barrington Wade. And, people will probably, I'm sure I won't be the first one to say this, he's a linebacker. And we know that undrafted free agent streak. There's a lot of linebackers, a lot of outside linebackers that came to the team that way, outside or inside, whether it's Danielle Ellerby, whether it's Zach Orr. I mean, you can just go through. Who's my man? Can't wait. Bar Scott. I mean, there's just a bunch of guys in that kind of outside linebacker position who have made this team as an undrafted free agent. So who knows? Maybe Barrington Wade could be the next guy in that position group to do it. Either one of you guys got anything on Barrington? I love the name too, Barrington Wade.
Yeah, I got nothing on it. You could have told me this was Barrington Levy, and I would have.
Said Barrington Bear. Might have been Barrington Bear. We might have knew something about him. We only got young kids. We might have known something about Barrington Bear.
Oh man.
Well, hey, that's it, man. I mean, look, you guys who've been rocking with us, you know how we do. We're gonna get on here and we're gonna touch it all. And you don't get a much more fulfilling episode than this. I mean, this is like going to the buffet and you done hit every station. You done hit it all. You don't have no room for nothing else. I mean, this is wall to wall, all the draft picks, the UDFAs, you got a video, you know. I mean, you can't ask for much more than this. So we're gonna go ahead and close out the show. I'll go to you, Kerry, first. Any final thoughts?
Man, just appreciate everybody that keeps rocking with us, man. So, go and rate and review the show. Just stick with us. We got some more things coming down the pipeline that we're planning. Trying to give you more visuals, just trying to give you more unique content. So, we appreciate the support.
Chris, turn it over to you. Any final thoughts?
I love the draft that they had. I love the way this team is coming together on paper. It's looking like a team that's going to really be able to compete this season, and I'm excited to see how much this offense can expand. And they're saying what they want to do, so I'm hoping we can see it come to fruition this season.
I agree. It's very exciting. Everything that they've done in this off season, lot to look forward to. And I just want to echo what Kerry said. Just thanking everybody for listening, for watching. Now we're going to be trying to bring you guys some new things, do some different things, have more new things and different things in store that we haven't shared yet. So we're just always trying to give you more, right? To do things that we're proud of, and that we don't really think there are too many other people out in the space doing, some of the stuff that we're doing. So trying to blaze a trail a little bit in that way too. So appreciate y'all for being along for the ride. Keep rocking with us. And until next time, we are out.